Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. I'm Carol Plumlee, member of the board at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. Whether you are on Zoom or here in the church sanctuary, we are glad you are with us this morning. No matter how old or how young you are, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, however you identify and whomever you love, know you are welcome here. During the summer, ministers take a much-needed vacation and study time, and many of our services are lay-led. This gives us an opportunity to hear diverse perspectives from some of our congregants. We look forward to welcoming our new minister, Reverend Eileen to the pulpit August 20th. Today our service is being lay-led by Claudia Flisi. Claudia became a member of our church last year after she and her husband moved to Reston. She lived in Europe the previous 37 years, mostly in Italy. She is also an Italian citizen, but also 10 years in France and extended periods in the UK and Spain. She has visited about 105 countries and counting. Her career has been in public relations and writing, and her articles have appeared in the International New York Times, Newsweek, Fortune, Variety, and many others. Claudia is blessed with 2 sons, one of whom lives in Herndon, and she has 2 grandchildren. She notes that she has fallen off horses on 6 continents and trained dogs badly in 3 languages. We are very pleased to have Claudia leading our today's service. Our accompanist today is Meagan Pitluck-Schmitt. We are also joined by 2 guest artists, violinist Sheppard, Sophia Deligianis Niemi, who will be playing the Duduk. And for announcements, we have one announcement this morning. Do you have your UUCR t-shirt yet? The order deadline for UUCR t-shirts has been extended. The shirts cost approximately $25 and will be delivered to UUCR in early August. We will share a QR code at the end of the service, so please do place your order today. We must meet a minimum order threshold. And now let's center ourselves for worship. Please take some deep, quieting breaths, and let us enter our time of worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude.
In Mongolia, when you're about to enter someone's home, there's usually no doorbell and no lock on the door. So you shout out before entering, sorry for my lack of Mongolian, no kago koyoroi, which means hold the dog. Because traditional Mongolian homes include large dogs that were used for protection. Since there's no locks on the doors, they have the dogs. So when you say hold the dog, what you mean is that you are entering in peace, that you mean well, and that your intentions are good. So as I enter this house of worship today, let me start by saying, no kago koyoroi. What I'd like to do this morning, a little bit later, is to share with you a life lesson that comes from travel. Now, some of you are very well traveled, and some of you explore the world through books, movies, social media, or discussions with family and friends. However you wander, you may be reminded of similar episodes in your own life, and we can share them together after the service for coffee, and there's also some cookies that I made. So those of you at home are invited to share your experiences online, but a reminder that when you do so, they are public, so keep that in mind when you share. Thanks.
Our opening hymn today is number 175, We Celebrate the Web of Life. If you are at home on Zoom, the words will be in your chat box. Here in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing.
Hello, my name is Andrée Comiskey, and I am the worship associate today. Today, our chalice lighting words are titled, As We Gather Many Drops, and they were written by Leslie Takahashi. Leslie Takahashi is a lead minister at Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church in Walnut Creek, California. We gather as many drops, each winding our own path down life's surfaces and ruts. Here we pull together as a single body, flowing together for a time. Together we are a stream, at times even a river. For with our shared force, we can travel toward oceans of meaning and seas of connection.
Here UUCR, we have a tradition of singing our covenant together every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church. We will remain seated as we sing our covenant together, and Meagan will accompany.
Before the joys and concerns portion of our service, David Okerson, our board president, would like to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. We want to make everyone aware of a very unfortunate incident that happened this past week. A UU church in Plano, Texas, suffered an arson attack, possibly linked to some provocative publicity about their support of the LGBTQ community by people there in Texas. Luckily, no one was injured and the damage was minimal. I have written to the board of that church expressing our support and sympathy for them. And after the service today, Reverend Eileen has cards that will be outside for everyone who would like to sign in order to add their words of support for the church in Plano. We have also reviewed and will continue to review our safety and security procedures and protocols here. We see no reason for additional concern here in Reston, but we will remain vigilant to protect us all. Thank you.
So we have concerns as well as joys, but now is the time in our service when we share both of them, joys and concerns, so that no one ever has to hold them alone, whether you are at home or traveling. So if you're joining us remotely this morning, you may wish to light a real or a virtual candle, wherever you are, to mark what's in your heart, as those joining us in person in the sanctuary are invited to place stones in the water. Now, if those of you at home would like to share what's in your heart today in the chat, please feel free to do so. But again, remember that what you write is public. So now, those who wish to place stones in the water are invited to do so. is like a poem. One definition of a poem is what oft was said, but ne'er so well expressed. So there's a thematically appropriate poem that I offer today as the prayer in this section. And it's a poem that many of you know by heart, as I do, so feel free to join me in reciting it. It's The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Amen.
As a self-funded church, UUCR relies on the generosity of its members and friends to fund daily operations and to ensure that the church and its resources are here for us. Pledges support our worship and music programs, our religious education programs for members and friends, community outreach, and connections to Unitarian Universalism. We now invite you to support the work of UU Reston by making your donation to the collection plate, and if you are here in the sanctuary, and at the link on the slide and in the chat box. Thank you for your generosity and support of our beloved spiritual home. Before we begin our offering, Cynthia has a brief introduction for our offering music.
Thank you. Before we continue, I would just like to say that we are so richly blessed this morning by two of our youth musicians, Kate and Sophia, and I'd like to thank them so much for adding to the international flavor of our service this morning. Second announcement, we did not have a children's story today, so we did not have a children's recessional. If you have a child in the sanctuary, they're welcome to stay, or they can go downstairs where they can join the other children in our RE program. So you may leave at this time if you would like to, if you're a younger person. So our offertory today is a little bit different. It is a video. It is a music video created by a Tuvan throat singer. His name is Mongoose Saidash. Throat singing is an ancient tradition developed by nomadic people of Central Asia. It is animistic, spiritual, closely aligned with nature, and it involves creating more than one tone at a time with the human voice. In this song, the singer is describing the beauty of nature and animals in their homeland of Tuva.
For a minute. You surely also know the observation by the poet Robert Burns, who is a prototypical Unitarian, I learned recently. He never joined the Unitarian Church, but he was considered to be a prototypical Unitarian. Now, I can't render it in very authentic Scottish burr, but it's way better than my Mongolian. I want some power the Giftie to see ourselves as either see us. If we only had the power to see ourselves as other people see us. And the flip side of this, not requiring a Scottish accent, thankfully, is a poem by American Mary T. Lathrop, published in 1895, which is not known by its original title, but by its most famous phrase, to walk a mile in his moccasins. In other words, the gift of travel is to see yourselves from another perspective and also to see the world as others perceive it. Now, You don't have to travel outside the United States to see abject poverty, unbalanced income distribution, racism, religious intolerance, gender inequality, or environmental disruption. You don't have to travel outside of Virginia. You don't even have to travel outside of Reston. But sometimes these things can be seen more clearly and dramatically in an unfamiliar setting. In Italy, I was aware of the cultural disparity between the north and the south of the country, but I didn't feel it as viscerally as I did when I went to live there. In India, there is religious hostility, everyone knows, between the Hindu majority and the Muslim minority, and the War of Partition in 1947 was illustration of that. But the fact that India is known as the largest Hindu country in the world negates the fact that it is also the second largest Muslim country in the world. And this exacerbates the tension, the ongoing tension between the two. We all know that glaciers are retreating, but if you traveled in Switzerland in the 1970s, and the first Earth Day was 1970, but if you traveled in Switzerland in the 1970s, guides were already talking about the retreat of the glaciers, something that Al Gore didn't start talking about until his speech in 1993, and then, of course, there was the movie that won the Oscar in 2006. And for anyone who has traveled to Iceland or New Zealand, when you arrive there, right at the airport, you will feel immediately the impassioned protection of the locals for their ever more endangered environment. However, all these lessons aside, one of the most dramatic life lessons I learned was when I was horseback riding in the Arhangai Aimag in the geographic center of Mongolia. My horse guide was a woman about 10 years younger than I am, which, according to Manda, my guide, made us about the same age, since life expectancy in Mongolia is about 10 years, or at least 10 years less than life expectancy in Italy, where I was living at the time. We became friends during long days riding across the steppes, and she sometimes talked about the fact that she had been born in a gyr in an unpopulated part of the country, which is to say, most of the country, and moved to the capital city of Ulaanbaatar only for university. Now, much has changed in the last couple of decades, there as everywhere, but there used to be no computers, no TV, no refrigerator, the wardrobe was reduced to basics, and the heaviest thing you carried, other than the door of the gyr, was a wooden saddle for your horse. That's Manda. Wait, you're going a little fast, take it easy. Slow down. I hasten to add that we as Westerners did not have to ride on wooden saddles. Okay, ahead to the wooden saddle. Yes, there it is. And that was a lucky thing because we were on horses about 8 hours a day. Now, Amanda compared this life to the life she'd adopted as an urban professional, with heating in the winter, AC in the summer, a refrigerator to preserve the food that she bought at the supermarket, rather than killing and immediately eating it on the spot over a fire. She had a computer, a TV, a phone, a high income by Mongolia standards, and extensive wardrobe, also by local standards. And she compared this life to the life of her relatives who were living the nomadic life of their ancestors. And she wondered aloud to me one day as we jogged along on the dusty non-trail, who was really happier? And her question took me aback. Are you automatically happier because you have air conditioning? Well, maybe in the summer in the middle of the Gobi Desert, or maybe in Reston, Virginia in these days, where temperatures reach 100 degrees and so, you might say yes, but Manda didn't. Are you automatically happier because you have central heating in the winter? Maybe in the winter in Ulaanbaatar, which is the coldest country capital in the world, where the average winter temperature is minus 28 degrees centigrade, that is to say, minus 18.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and it can drop to minus 40 degrees centigrade, which, interestingly, is minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the only point on the scale where the two numbers are exactly the same. And you might say yes, but Manda didn't. People in Ulaanbaatar and the tourists she squired in the summer were all caught up with what she considered to be petty problems: bureaucracy, making money, squabbles among friends, colleagues, family, silly aspirations like the shiniest car, the most stylish clothes, the trendiest cafes in UB. Now, granted that the tourists she met were well-heeled by definition, and her circle of friends in UB consisted of urban professionals like herself, which meant that no one was poor. No one was eking out a subsistence living, and no one was worried about paying the rent or buying the groceries or killing the groceries. Now, all of these considerations made absolutely no sense outside of UB. A little bit about Ulaanbaatar. It's basically the one city in Mongolia where nearly half of the population lives. 1.4 million out of a population of 3-point-something million. And of those 1.4 million, approximately 60% still live in gears. The rest of Mongolia is 4 times the size of France, twice the size of Texas, and has a population around the size of San Diego. So it's hard to covet your neighbor's possessions when you rarely see your neighbors. Outside of the capital, people paid no rent because they lived in gears. Now, this too is changing because things are changing everywhere in the world, but this has been the case for many, many decades and even many centuries. They didn't worry about paying for gasoline because they rode horses. Now they're starting to ride motorcycles, but they were riding horses. And the horses ate only the grass of the steppes. I tried to offer my horse sugar and apples. No dice. He didn't know what they were, and he refused to eat them. Perhaps ironically, and perhaps logically, the people of the world's least densely populated country are extremely hospitable to their neighbors. Now, the joke used to be, before the cell network was in place, that Mongolians navigated with their own GPS, their gear positioning system. They would orient themselves between one cluster of gears and another, and they would always be offered airag, fermented mare's milk, which is sort of like beer and a lot better than it sounds. They're kind of going too fast here, but yes, these are the horses about to be milked. Hospitality was mandatory. Contrast this to the US today, where people are shot when they knock on a neighbor's door, or pull into the wrong driveway, or accidentally touch the wrong door handle. Without getting into the issue of guns, which is an entirely different subject for another time or maybe another 100 years of discussion, let me point out simply that Mongolians are generally fierce, strong people. They did conquer more of the world than any other people at any other time in history. They're not passive, they're tough and forthright, as one would expect from the geographic and climatic conditions that made them. However, alongside this tough core is a cultural understanding of the importance of human relations. Maybe because of the need for same, they're going through all these, so it doesn't quite match with what I'm saying, it's okay. Maybe because of the need for same in the world's emptiest country. The rhythms of life, the importance of family and friends, the reliance on humanity and on one's animals, vulnerability to the vicissitudes of nature. These are all practices and sensitivities largely, but not completely, lacking in urban environments. Now, are the gear dwellers economically poor? They don't think so. I've seen poverty in Africa and South America and Asia and India and practically every country in the world except Scandinavia. But the one scene that encapsulated real, pure poverty for me was in an unnamed village in the middle of Laos in the jungle. And you can freeze on that one. The houses there were set on flimsy pylons to keep them from being inundated during monsoon season, and they had little in them apart from an excuse for a bed. Now, in one of these structures, I saw an old woman lying alone on the floor in a semi-fetal position. She was bone-thin, and she looked ill and mentally unbalanced. What I perceived as her wretched condition and her solitude made more of an impression on me than anyone else in this desolate village. But our Laotian guide was unperturbed. "Don't worry about her," he assured me. "Her neighbors take care of her. They bring her something to eat and drink. They tend to her during monsoon season, and they won't let her die alone." Now, I wasn't entirely convinced. He was probably saying something to make me, the Westerner, feel less upset about conditions in that remote location. But he was also saying something about the importance of human interconnectivity. Now, you know the saying, it takes a village, not only to raise a child, but also to care for the aged and infirm, and to weave the fabric of community. Italy, a country I know very well as an Italian national, also weaves this fabric more through family than geography. It has a very strong sense of extended family, and a sense of community is created this way. You can go on. Yes, there we are. It helps that Italy also has amazing food, and good food draws people to the table, and at the table, the fabric of community is created, and the sense of community in Italy is fostered this way. So good food helps. David Brooks is a conservative commentator who some of you may know. He writes for the New York Times. He wrote in The Atlantic in January 2023, this year, quote, "My basic take is that life in America today is objectively better than it was before the pandemic, but subjectively worse. We have much higher standards of living and many conveniences, but when it comes to how we relate to one another, whether in the realm of politics, across social divides, or in the intimacies of family and community life, distrust is rife, bonds are fraying, and judgments are harsh." So what's the solution? We can't all go off to Mongolia to live in gears and ride horses across the steppes, and we can't all eat great meals in Italy, although that would be pretty nice. Our religion offers us something. In Reverend Scott's 27-minute breakneck speed summary of Unitarianism on June 4th, he noted the importance of the quality of relationships in the Unitarian tradition. The UUA curriculum guide devotes a full chapter to community, stating, quote, "We are a faith given to engagement with our world. In community, we are offered opportunities to learn who we are," this is the Giftie, noted by Robert Burns, "and to be grateful for each other." Community is, in fact, a key aspect of the UU tradition, the interdependent web of existence, and the meaning we find in connections with other people, the natural world, and the universe. It occurred to me, you can go on, yes, okay, hold on that one. It occurred to me as I was preparing these remarks that my very presence as your lay leader today underscores the Unitarian faith in community. Not all religions invite participation by members of the congregation, but UUs do, believing that involvement by people like your lay leaders fosters a sense of belonging and ownership in our religious community. We become closer to the community, and the community, in some ephemeral way, may see the world through our eyes, that is, to walk a mile in our moccasins, although I don't have moccasins today, but whatever. This way, we strengthen individual understanding and community bonds. So, perhaps without taking a plane too far off Mongolia or Laos or Italy or Scotland, we've done a little traveling together this morning. At least I have, and I would look forward to the opportunity to travel with you again. Thank you.
Our closing hymn today is hymn number 159, "This Is My Song." Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing.
Song of peace.
Thank you, Cynthia, for this, because this song is particularly relevant. The word Mongolia means land of blue skies, so it's a really appropriate song, and you must have known ahead of time. Okay. Let's close today's service with the final words, thankfully not in Mongolian, of Robert Burns' poem For I That in my very questionable Scottish accent. Then let us pray that come it may, as come it will for I that sense and worth, or I the earth, shall bear the gree for I that. For I that and I that, it's coming yet for I that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for I that. And finally, yes, got it right this time. And finally, to mix cultural metaphors during this, our traveling service, no qua go, ko yoroi. Please hold the dog and go in peace. Amen.
We now extinguish this flame. But not the light of hope and truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry forth in our hearts until we are together again.
Some of the singers in the choir are going to come up and help me lead you in singing together our postlude, which is actually a hymn in the hymnal, Tula Klizio. And this song was written by Joseph Shabalala, a South African singer and composer and founder of the group Ladysmith Black Mambazo, so some of you may be familiar. It seemed like a nice opportunity as we appreciate other cultures and their customs to sing a song in a foreign language. So this song is in Zulu, and I believe the words, they're perfect, lovely. The words are up there, so we're going to briefly pronounce them together. So, Tula, Klizio, Nala, Pase, Kaya. Tula Klizio, Nala Pase Kaya. That sounds fantastic. Okay, we're going to sing for you together the tune, and we'll sing it once for you, and then we can all sing it together. So, you guys gonna help me out?
We are.
Tu la Klizio na la Pasekaya. Tu la Klizio na la Pasekaya. Hey Kaya na la Pasekaya. Hey Kaya na la Pasekaya. That's the whole song. So let's do it line by line. So the first line goes, Tu la Klizio na la Pasekaya. Let's try that all together. Tu la Klizio na la Pasekaya. That was awesome. We sing that twice. So let's do it again. Tu la Klizio na la Pasekaya. let's try that twice together, like it's going to be in the song. Okay, so from the beginning. Tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia. Everybody good? Awesome. Next part. We have this fun hey. It goes, hey, kaya na la Passecaia. And it ends the same as the first line. We just have that little hey we get to do. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Hey, kaya na la Passecaia. Again. Hey, kaya na la Passecaia. Perfect. And when we sing hey, we're going to throw up our hands in the air on the word hey. Okay, so this song means, be still my heart, even here I am at home. And Joseph Shabalala said that he wrote it when he was traveling in New York City in a taxi. He was in a taxi in New York City, feeling very, out of place. And so he wrote this song telling himself, be still my heart, because no matter where I am accepted as a human and with other humans, I am always at home. So it seemed like a good song when we're talking about traveling to foreign places. So we're going to do this with our hands. Be still my heart while we sing the first part. And then we're going to throw up our hands on the hey. And the second part, we're going to put our hands out and receive the blessing. And you can do little bounces if you would like to the rhythm, okay? So let's try it. We're still doing unison with the motions. Here we go. Tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia. Beautiful, you got it. That's the whole song. Excuse me. So we have some fabulous bass singers up here who are going to throw in some lovely bass harmonies for us while the rest of us sing the tune. Are you ready? Okay, from the beginning with our harmonies, and we'll do it a few times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia. One more thing. Are you ready? If you're feeling very brave, you may stand in body or spirit, or in body if you would like to. Anybody want to stand up? Awesome. Okay. And we're just going to do a little walking step to the beat. And if you feel so inclined, you can put your right foot forward every other step so we get a little sway going. Okay? Or you can just kind of sway in place or do a walking motion. So we try that. You're just walking in place. Okay, and we're going to do our motions, and we're going to put it all together. Are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia. Last time. Tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia la Passecaia, hey, Gaia la Passecaia, hey,
Wow, that's hard to follow all of that. We invite our congregants to join us for coffee or tea and fellowship. Those attending worship on Zoom can join us for a virtual Greet Your Neighbor coffee hour to discuss the service theme and enjoy fellowship with other congregants. The link is in the chat box and will be on a forthcoming slide. We hope you will use the chat box as a virtual receiving line to leave a message about your appreciation for the worship service. Also in the chat box and on the screen will be a link for you to order your UCR t-shirts. Please place your order today. Have a nice rest of your day, and I hope it's as adventuresome in your life as it has been in Claire's.